If 1995 was the alternative Takeover and 1996 was the year of the power ballad, 1997 was the year the system just broke. We have finally arrived at the breaking point. This isn't just the year of the great divorce between Mariah Carey and Tommy Mottola, though trust me, we're going to get into every single messy detail of that liberation. This is the divorce of the entire pop monolith. For the first half of the decade, the rules were simple. You're a diva? Great. Wear the sequin gown, stand perfectly still, hit the B5 note, and go home. But in 1997, that treaty expired. I'm James, a 40-something guy clinging to his 90s and noughties playlists, trying to make sense of pop music today, and welcome back to the main Pop Girl, where we use the receipts, the charts, and the trauma to crown the woman who actually ruled the year. In 1997, the biggest voices on the planet split into three radically different directions. The escaped prisoner who burned down her own image, ditched the ballads and ran off with the rappers. The vocal athlete who doubled down on the schmaltz and became bigger than the industry itself. The broken icon who locked herself in a dark room, got pierced, and wrote a whole album about depression. Oh, and 5 British women in platform shoes were busy recolonizing America. It's messy, it's tragic, and it's arguably the most important year of the evolution for the modern pop star. Let's look at the receipts. To understand the charts in 1997, you have to understand the air we were breathing. It was heavy. Culturally, we were trying to distract ourselves. We were fighting to keep our Tamagotchis alive. We were watching Will Smith fight aliens in Men in Black. We were listening to Barbie Girl, but underneath the neon plastic, everything was shifting. In March, the notorious B.I.G. was shot dead in Los Angeles. The golden age of 90s hip-hop didn't just end, it was murdered. And the industry, being the cold machine that it is, instantly pivoted. The vacuum was filled by Puff Daddy's shiny suit era. The music went from gritty to glossy overnight. And then, on August 31st, Princess Diana died. The world just stopped. Musically, this created a black hole. Elton John performed Candle in the Wind in 1997 at the funeral. When that single was released, it didn't just sell. It swallowed the entire music business. 33 million copies sold worldwide. 14 weeks at #1 in the US. #1 in the UK, obviously. This is crucial context because it basically froze the charts. If you were a pop girl trying to release a banger in late 1997, you were fighting a losing battle against a global memorial service. We also have to talk about the Atlantic divide. In the UK, it was cool Britannia all the way. Tony Blair had been recently elected as Prime Minister, the Spice Girls were at their absolute peak, and guitar music was king. In the US, it was the dawn of TRL. The teen pop explosion was incubating, but for now, it was all about R&B crossovers and movie soundtracks. So, in this atmosphere of tragedy and transition, who stepped up? Let's start with the pivot that changed everything. Mariah Carey started 1997 as Mrs. Sony Music. She was living in a $10 million estate in Bedford, New York that she infamously called Sing Sing. She had surveillance cameras watching her, bodyguards reporting her movements, a husband, Sony boss Tommy Mottola, who controlled everything from the length of her skirts to the snare drums on her tracks. She wasn't a pop star, she was an asset. So Butterfly wasn't just an album, it was a jailbreak. She released the album on September 16th, 1997, just months after separating from Mottola. And when the lead single Honey dropped, the industry gasped. The video was a literal documentary of her escape. She's diving into a pool in a swimsuit, which Tommy famously forbade. She's fighting hitmen. She's jet skiing. But the real rebellion was the sound. She worked with Q-Tip and Puff Daddy. She used a sample from the Treacherous 3. The executives at Sony were terrified. They saw Mariah pinching Puffy's cheeks in the video and thought, well, there goes our adult contemporary audience. But let's look at the data. On the Billboard Hot 100, Honey debuted at #1, and it stayed there for 3 weeks. It was her 12th chart topper. And in the UK, it peaked at number 3, a legitimate transatlantic hit. But then the sabotage began. Mariah was in an open war with her label, and they fought dirty. For the second single, the title track, Butterfly, Sony released it as an airplay-only single in the US. In 1997, Billboard rules said that if you didn't have a physical single on the shelf, you can't chart on the Hot 100. They deliberately suffocated the song to spite her. So, how did the album actually do? Butterfly debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200 with 235,000 copies. Massive, yes, but compared to Daydream, it was a drop. In the UK, it debuted at number 2, but sold significantly less than her previous work. The press started whispering the F word, flop. But here's why she's a contender. She didn't just sell records. She built the blueprint. The pop vocalist plus rapper feature, that started with Fantasy, and it was cemented on Butterfly. No Butterfly? No J-Lo. No Beyonce. No Crazy in Love. She traded her sales for freedom, and she won the long game. Quick question for the culture. Did you own the Candle in the Wind 1997 single? And be honest, did you actually play it, or did you just keep it in the plastic case as a collector's item? Let me know in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next episode. If you watched my 1995 video, you'll know that Mariah was building the castle. In 1997, she burned it down. You don't want to miss what happens in 1998. Now, while Mariah was fighting for her freedom, Celine Dion was busy being inevitable. Celine, in 1997, is a statistical anomaly. She spent the entire year dominating the charts with 2 different, massive albums active at the same time. She started the year promoting Falling Into You, which won Album of the Year at the Grammys in February. And then, just to show off, she released Let's Talk About Love in November. In the US, she was a fixture. It's All Coming Back to Me Now was still lingering on the charts, but in the UK, she was an occupying force. Tell Him, the duet with Barbra Streisand, hit number 3 on the official charts. Think Twice, a holdover from late 1996, was still shifting units. Let's Talk About Love hit number 1 on the UK album chart in November and refused to leave. But we have to talk about the iceberg in the room. Iceberg, right ahead! My heart will go on. Here's the lore. Celine Dion hated this song. Hated it. When James Horner played it for her, she rolled her eyes. She didn't want to do another movie ballad. Her husband, René Angelil, had to beg her to record the demo. She walked into the booth, drank some black coffee, and recorded the song in one take. That demo, that's the vocal you hear on the record. They added the orchestra later. The song was released on the album in November 1997. The movie came out in December. The explosion happened in 1998, but the fuse was lit here. Celine Dion in 1997 wasn't a pop star. She was a utility, like water or electricity. You just couldn't exist without her. Then there's the third angle, the one that hurts. Janet Jackson had the money, a record-breaking $80 million contract with Virgin, but she didn't have the peace. She disappeared after her Janet World Tour and came back looking different. Piercings, tattoos, deep red curly hair. The Velvet Rope is not a pop album. It's a trauma dump. She was writing about domestic abuse, sexual identity, and deep depression. The lead single, Got Till It's Gone, was a dusty, Jay Dilla-inspired trip-hop track featuring Q-Tip. Everyone wanted that Tribe Called Quest credibility in 1997. But just like Mariah, Janet got caught by the chart rules. Virgin didn't release a commercial single. The result? It didn't chart on the Hot 100 despite massive airplay. On the UK charts, it hit number 6, but then she pulled the ultimate bait and switch. She released Together Again, but that doesn't come until a little bit later. In 1997, it seemed that the Velvet Rope didn't have particularly great prospects. Why Virgin would pay $80 million for Janet Jackson and then not release commercial singles doesn't seem to make sense to me. But we'll see how that story finishes next time. We have to mention the noise in the background, because in 1997, the background was louder than the foreground. The Spice Girls. Look, strictly speaking, they owned the planet. Spice was the number 1 album of the year in the US. Wannabe hit number 1 in the US in January, but this is the main pop girl. Singular. Groups are disqualified. Sorry, Posh. Toni Braxton. She started the year with Unbreak My Heart, spending 7 weeks at number 1 in the US. massive. But the tragedy? While she had the number 9 album of the year, she was filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. I plan to tell that story in its entirety at some point soon. Shania Twain, on November 4, she released Come On Over. It didn't explode instantly, it was a slow burn, but that album would eventually sell 40 million copies. Shania was planting seeds in 1997 that she'd be harvesting for the rest of the decade. So, who takes the crown in this fractured year? My runner-up, Janet Jackson. The Velvet Rope is the critical peak of the year. It's the album that birthed the alternative R&B genre. Ask SZA, ask Rihanna. But statistically, the chart rule confusion and the dark themes hurt her commercial dominance compared to the other two. My honorable mention, I'm going to get in the comments for this. Celine Dion. If you care about maths, she wins. 2 massive albums, Tell Him, the start of the Titanic, Mania. She was the best seller, undeniably, but was she the main character? Or was she just the soundtrack to the main character? Let's talk about it in the comments. But the main pop girl of 1997 is Mariah Carey. And here's why. The main pop girl title isn't just about who sold the most plastic. It's about who shifted the culture. In 1997, Mariah dragged pop music out of the ballad era and into the modern hip-hop pop hybrid era. She fought the industry's most powerful man and won. She took the hit on her sales to secure her legacy. She gave up the safe audience to gain the cool audience. Celine had the sales, it's undeniable. But Mariah wrote the script for the next 20 years of pop music. But that's just my take. Was Butterfly worth the commercial dip? Do you think the Spice Girls should just win on a technicality? And am I disrespecting the power of the Titanic soundtrack? I've actually owned this t-shirt for many years. I didn't buy it for this video. I'm not sure why I'm telling people that. Drop your ranking in the comments. I read them all. If you want to support the channel and help me buy back the CD collection I sold in 2007, hit the join button below. Next time, we're going to 1998. The acoustic guitars are packing up, the teen queens are waking up, and things are about to get toxic. See you next time.